Hi, John Emmett. First one on tonight, this afternoon here in San Francisco. Gordon Smith, good evening from Denmark, you lovely lot, as he always says. Julie Ahrens in Cleveland. Hi, Julie. Cheers from Michigan, Mark Wharton Reed. Who's on? Got a comment from Mark. Ahoy from Leamington, Christopher Gillingham says. Leamington, of course, in the UK. James Dickens. Hello, James. Saying good evening. He must be in Europe. It's Saturday morning down under in Oz and in the land with the long white cloud as we count down the last 25 seconds or so to today's show. I'm here in the Studio B by myself. No Julia today. She's taking a well-deserved day off. And we'll get to all that and get our show on the road in 10 seconds.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon from San Francisco. Welcome to show number 495 of TFE Live, our twice weekly, I don't know what to call it, a webcast or a video podcast, but it's our show, our sailing show about news, views, and notables around the world, primarily globally focused. We don't talk too much about the U.S. unless there's something going on here of international note. Welcome to all of you. A lot of people on here. Rob Fry, I think we got down to Rob. Wet Hogs, checking in from Annapolis. Guy Briere, don't call me Guy Briere from the auspicious Southern Yacht Club in New Orleans, one of the great, and one of the oldest clubs in this country, in fact. Rob Fry and Pauanui on the Coromandel in New Zealand. Ted Ryman, as usual, from Cape Town. Neil Collingridge off to Itchener for some cadet training. It's going to blow, I guess that means blow hard, and in Brit Talk, pump all weekend. Alistair Murray, no, Julia, can you really carry this show on your own, Tom? I don't know, Alistair, that will be a challenge. Andrew Pindar, evening from North Yorkshire, the spiritual home of fish and chips. Hopefully the next venue of the America's Cup, right, Andrew? Well, Fritz Muller's down in Miami, and a bunch of others are already on here. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me. As I said, Julia is not here today. She's got a well-deserved day off. Maybe it was that, you remember she got that call on her Dick Tracy watch, on her Apple Watch during the show on Tuesday from one of her many boyfriends, and maybe she has an assignation, I don't know, up at her country home this weekend. It's a long weekend. It is Valentine's Day weekend. No, I'm teasing. That's not quite true. She's not here. She's just fine. She'll be back with us on Tuesday and just taking a well-deserved weekend off. Speaking of ladies, do you know what this day is? Joyce Chiarella is checking in from Hawaii. I have a Joyce Chiarella joke here at the end of this show. Hello, Joyce. Aloha greetings, she's saying. Pumping all weekend sounds like heaps of fun. Jody Shields is saying. Okay, at this point, I got Jody on here. I have this photo which he sent, and that's Leo Takahashi. Leo, who's been staying in Wanji, staying with Jody and his wife for months, I think over 2 months now because of the COVID restrictions, and getting back and forth between Oz and New Zealand. And I have to wonder, I put this picture in and I didn't really look at it too carefully. The thumbs up, of course, but if you pan up, what is that on the back wall? It looks like a pair of, tidy whities. I don't know, Jody, you have to tell us what that is. Leo Takahashi, Jody Shields, two of our favorite people, Fozzies both, and welcome to you. Leo's probably not out of bed yet down there. What day is this? Can you tell by this graphic? That's Dan he's saying those are dirty underpants. I hope not. This is International Day of Women and Girls in Science, and I thought that especially Andrew Pindar would like that we featured this. He's a big supporter in our sport, not only of all good things, but particularly women in sport and the Magenta Project. And this International Day, it's a UN day, seeks to recognize the achievements of women and girls in science, which our sport is also all about, STEM or STEAM. This day encourages more women and girls to seek out STEM-related fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, right? Is that what STEM stands for? And a lot of schools here now have changed that to STEAM, put an A in there for arts, but, STEM, the sciences. Sciences, oh, there it is. Sciences, technology, engineering, and mathematics. According to the U.S. Census in 2021, women made up only 27% of those employed in science and engineering occupations. This day also aims to promote gender equality and, of course, eliminate discrimination. International Day of Women and Girls in Science was established in 2015 by the UN General Assembly. It is observed annually on February the 11th. Today, and here's a quick video from Canada about this topic.
Science isn't just microscopes and neurons and bacteria. It's a way of asking questions.
A life of a scientist is exciting in very many ways. Every day you have an opportunity to learn something new.
Being in the lab is inspiring. I know that we're gonna find something that help people to see and give them more hope.
As a scientist, I'm really trying to find a cure. What I'm looking for are pieces of the puzzle.
The best life lesson I've learned is to be always curious.
It's cool to be part of something bigger than me, something that's making the world a better place.
You will be also inspiring to others.
Yeah, feels fantastic.
Science is curiosity, and science is wanting to know more about the world. It's fun.
That's from Kremble, which is a sponsor of at the University of Toronto, I think it is, of a big high-tech neuroscience type school, I guess it is, and laboratory in Toronto. And, speaking of Canada, Canada, the back and forth with the truckers. They've got 3 of the major border crossings blocked, 2 in my home state of Michigan, both in Detroit, the Ambassador Bridge, and up in Port Huron. And I guess one other bridge out to the west, out between, Montana and Saskatchewan or Alberta, I can't remember. But it looks like they're having some impact because even there's been a lot of, up in Canada, there's been a lot of rustling and some mean mouth from the leadership of Canada. But it looks like the truckers are starting to get these mandates reduced, and hopefully there's some progress there, and because it's upsetting the supply chain, both sides of the border, and on and on and on. Let's don't get into the politics of all that. It's also taken hold in New Zealand. There's a big protest down there, trucker related, and it's about to start here in the U.S. around the Super Bowl, which is this Sunday. So it's going to be an interesting time to see. I guess in Brussels, in France, I'm not sure where else, but we got to get, I guess, the good doctor back on here, Andrew McIrvin, sooner or later, to tell us if we are really past the pandemic phase of the Rona of COVID, and if we're in the endemic phase, if this is just now going to slowly peter out, no pun intended. Let's carry on here to the starting line. And we want to give a Bravo Zulu a shout out right here at the top of the show to our Fozy and regular contributor, John Emmett. I think this is his best report yet in what we call the Train Hard, Sail Easy segment. Master mentor John Emmett, and here is today's video submission from John.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fozy. Last show I talked to you about the Tiger Trophy, and that was part of the John Merrick's Sailing Trust. Really amazingly talented sailor who sadly lost their life too soon, and a big shout out for Rutland Sailing Club for hosting the event. It's really good to do the Tiger dinner and all the rest of it and catch up with people, and I think everyone was grateful that they rang the event in strong winds. In fact, my understanding is that the gusts were about 39 knots, which is quite a lot for most classes. In fact, I think across all 3 races there was less than 20 people who finished all 3, whereas there was over 100 entries on paper, I think. Probably 94 turned up on the day, because of course people do tend to look at weather forecasts before travelling. But yeah, the fact is it was really good racing for some, and it's always your responsibility to race. A big shout out to them. And I said that was the John Merrick's Sailing Trust, and it's just amazing to think that was now half a lifetime ago that he lost his life. Sailing Illustrated is obviously very keen on the America's Cup, and another person, as well as John Merrick, who sadly lost their life far too soon, was Andrew Simpson, affectionately known as Bart. And again, some really, really good stuff has come out of this tragedy. The Andrew Simpson centres just help an amazing number of people getting on the water. And it's not just here in Weymouth, at the Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy. They're springing up all over the UK. And in fact, I think they're probably going to start to spring up all over the world. I don't know exactly, but I think Bart's Bash may have been the biggest sailing event in the world ever. Certainly featured a huge number of countries, which just shows how many lives Andrew Simpson touched. But the key thing is they did a really good job at introducing people to sport, and they carried on in the pandemic. I spoke to the director, Richard Percy, who's actually the younger brother of Ian Percy, who's CEO of Artemis. In fact, when I was Ben Ainsley's training partner for the Youth Worlds in '95, Richard was sailing with Chris Staper, and they were the training partner for Nick Rogers for the 420. Well, actually, I think they may even have been Laser 2s then, class at the Youth Worlds. And of course, Chris Draper is another household name now with his involvement with Sail GP, etc. So yeah, people been putting back into sport for a long time. And the thing that Richard said to me was over the pandemic or sort of after, they actually introduced more people to sailing. It was a bumper year last year between May and September, because I think everyone was just so keen to get outside and do sport while they could. And I think sailing fits that role incredibly well, because we're very well ventilated, especially at a 39 knot Tiger Trophy or whatever. And to be outside in the sunshine, it's good for people's mental as well as physical health. So yeah, little look around the Andrew Simpson Centre. And these are actually now collaborating to help people make the step from grassroots sailing into maybe even Olympic sailing, supporting those aspirational sailors. So the Andrew Simpson, another really good organisation and definitely worth checking out. Have a great show.
Bravo Zulu, John. I just think this video, there he is standing, presumably taking the shots here. I just think this was one of his best video. I texted him accordingly this morning, talking about the Andrew Simpson Center and in memory of Bart Simpson, who lost his life here in San Francisco during the lead up to the 2013 America's Cup, tragically with Artemis, when that boat folded up and Bart got folded up in it, tragically, as we said. Nice report, John. And you all like to make jokes about his face. And I just, the first time I watched that video carefully, I usually listen to his video rather than watch it because I'm so busy in the morning preparing the show. But John, your eye doesn't look correct. It looks actually almost worse than it did in the video from Tuesday. So I hope you're feeling better. All the jokes aside about your getting hit in the face. Yeah, Gordon Smith agreeing it was a nice piece. Very well ventilated. Well said. Alan Long agrees, replying to Gordon Smith, I did an interview with the head coach. I will see if I can find it. John's also put a link up here, up above to the Andrew Simpson Foundation.org, if any of you want to look at that. But the Brits are so passionate about the sport and remembering those who have been major contributors, and in this case died too young, both Mr. Merricks and Mr. Simpson. Always great, Joyce Chiarella says, always great listening to John's wisdom and comments. Gordon Smith, John, you did a great vlog with a training man. Okay, that was the reply down below. Warren Schasser checking in from Brisbane. Hello, Warren. Nice to see you on here as well. Baton Rouge, Baton Cannon in Charleston, South Carolina, over on the other coast, is saying in Charleston, STEM is actually called SAIL, for students actively involved in learning. I like that. I like that. If we could just get more students actively involved in learning, whether it's the arts or the sciences or anything else, phys ed, it would be nice, because we've got a lot of problems, at least in this country, with that. Ryman making a joke about John. Okay, you must stop your part-time MMA, mixed martial arts bouts. Wingrove talking about John's dimple. Okay. Bill Wingrove saying the trucker situation reminds me of the old joke about all the body parts arguing who should be the boss of the human body. Okay, there's some comments back and forth. Andrew Pindar, glad to be able to report that diversity and inclusion is getting real traction throughout the sport of sailing, with various initiatives being taken both at the grassroots and at the pinnacle. 2022 is going to see overdue change really happening. Andrew, thank you for that great sentiment. Nice to see and hear. I think that catches us up pretty well in the comments. Wet Hog, what happened to Artemis the Red? I don't know, Wet Hog. We should get Wet Hog's real name. He's in Annapolis, last I knew. Gordon Smith. Okay, back and forth. I think the Red Artemis boat was scrapped. I mean, it was not. Yeah, they weren't going to put it back together. I'm pretty sure that's the case, Wet Hog. Julie Aaron, so sad when Bart passed away in 2013. So many safety programs came out of it. Really good point, the spare air, and we're going to see some more about that later in the show. Jody, back to that picture, saying, yeah, you can confirm it was just a towel hanging over the staircase. All my bras and undies are elsewhere. Red is in storage in the East Bay, Mark Reed says. Artemis's red boat is still extant. It still is existing. Okay, thanks for that. We have another Bravo Zulu. Ted Ryman will like this one, related to world sailing and to the 11th hour racing, the sustainability award that we reported on here earlier, maybe a month ago. There's now a really nice video out of South Africa. Have a look.
Formed in 2008, when sailing in Durban, South Africa was considered an exclusive pursuit, the project aimed to increase the participation of black sailors and female sailors. In the time since, the number of girls racing has increased, and podium positions have improved year on year. Sailing is now a much more multicultural sport. The program has doubled as a life skills initiative, ensuring positive, sustainable outcomes around alleviating poverty, reducing inequality, developing education, and creating environmental awareness.
So when they said, can you take the Zoom call, take the call, I thought, it's not for me, because South Africa is not about me, it's about everybody. There's just all these people who just make it who it is. So I said, no, it must be taken in South Africa. And so they asked young Praise, and the two girls who are three instructors that do the most work to go on board. And I mean, I think, and apparently they'd prepped Praise because he was supposed to give the talk. And when we won, it was just so overcoming.
Well done, guys. Fantastic.
The money will be used, A, to train instructors up, B, to train them to take this program on. Our marina is in a rather dirty state, and it certainly impacts on our dinghy sailing, because there are times when we can't use it, it's too dirty. What I need to do is train some of my young facilitators to take small groups of students to actually go out there to write letters to our municipality, to write letters to our councillors, to get the councillors down there. I must be honest, we didn't expect it at all. Should I enter? And she said, absolutely. I suppose, if no sailor worth his salt achieves anything without leaving the dock, so best I leave the dock. And yeah.
As I said, Bravo Zulu to world sailing, to 11th hour racing, and to the South Africans. This is a great initiative. Gordon Smith agrees. He says, this is fantastic to see. Emmett is saying, I'm trying to meet up with Rob Holden from South Africa in Palma. It will happen. And it is a very cool initiative. I guess it was announced during the World Sailing Awards. Is that right? I'm sure Andrew Pindar will remember and help with this, and any number of others of you. and back in November, I guess. But this is the first time this video's just popped up, at least on my radar screen, in the last few days. So I thought it was appropriate to run. And again, Bravo Zulu to all involved, all concerned. We want to follow up on the story that we had from Tuesday about Her Majesty. Of course, it's her 70th. It's just astonishing that this week she became the British monarch to achieve 70 years of reign, which she celebrated in a quiet, private way with a small reception by reiterating her commitment to serving the British, as she did when she ascended to the throne, age 25, back a year before I was born. My goodness, 1952. And hopefully she is still going strong. The disturbing report that His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, has tested positive for COVID the second time and has been in close proximity to Her Majesty in the last few days. I just thought I'd run this BBC report to bring you all up to speed because we want to wish her and him the very best.
Prince Charles has tested positive for COVID for a second time and is self-isolating. It's understood he met with the Queen just 2 days ago, but a palace source says she hasn't been displaying any symptoms. It isn't confirmed whether or not she's tested positive or negative. A warning, there are flashing images in this report from our royal correspondent, Nicholas Witchell.
The British Museum in London last night, a reception for the British Asian Trust. The guests of honour, the Prince of Wales and his wife, the Duchess of Cornwall. Everyone was shaking hands quite freely. Among the guests the Prince met and shook hands with was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak. Roughly 12 hours after these pictures were taken, this morning, Charles took a routine COVID test. It was positive. It's the second time he's caught COVID. He's triple vaccinated. He's thought to be coping well. But 2 days ago, Charles was presiding at an investiture at Windsor Castle, and while he was there, he met the Queen. She'd just returned from Sandringham, where she'd been seen in good spirits at the weekend, marking the 70th anniversary of her accession to the throne. So, inevitably, a concern. Might she have contracted COVID during the meeting with the Prince of Wales?
As with all medical or health-related matters, Buckingham Palace is saying the absolute minimum. All that royal sources will say is that the Queen is not displaying any symptoms of COVID.
It can safely be assumed that the Queen has been triple vaccinated, but it's not known whether she's been tested for COVID or what any such tests have indicated. All the palace will say is that the situation is being monitored. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News.
You got to love the BBC. They report, well, maybe Richard Gladwell reports the way the BBC does in the third person. It may be safely assumed that Her Majesty has been triple vaxxed. Now you say, why do we run this? Well, her family is a big sailing family. The Princess Royal is a great sailor, Anne, and the family, including her late husband, the Queen's late husband, Prince Philip, great sailor. And, you know, we want to celebrate people who contributed and helped raise the sport, same as we do in this country with the Kennedys. They weren't great racing sailors, but they did a lot to promote the sport just by simply going out on their sailfish or on their Wiano Senior, one of the other boats. So the fact that they're royals helps, just like if any other celebrity that goes sailing. And if you have a celebrity in your country who's a sailor who's helping to raise the level and the interest in our beloved sport, please send that along. John Emmett, the Princess Royal, officially opened the Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy. And Stingray's making fun of me, saying, Stingray up in Seattle, who is not a royalist, but he's saying, British Royals Illustrated. Yeah, a little bit. Super spreader Charles Ted Ryman is saying. Emmett is saying that the big news in the UK, and it is here this morning, just before I went to air, I was trying not to pay attention to the report from the Defense Department here, the spokesman for our Defense Department, who all but said they're convinced, that Russia is going to invade Ukraine. The big news in the UK, Emmett is saying, is that Russia will invade on February 21st, which is the day after the close of the Olympics. So the media is looking for other stories, hence that BBC report from, I guess, yesterday. I found that on the BBC last night. But God save the Queen. May she, hopefully she doesn't have it. If she does, she's okay and can live for another 5 or 10 years even. Who knows? What a great gal. What'd the Beatles say? Her Majesty's a pretty fine gal, but she doesn't have a lot to say. Okay, enough. Welcome to show number, 495, closing in, as we like to say, on 500, which I think is going to be March 1st, unless we have we lose a show or gain a show because of some breaking news. Friday, February the 11th, 2022. We're about a half an hour in. Thanks for joining us. And I have another, because this was so popular from our Tuesday show, I thought we would do another one of these IQ foil videos. World Sailing has been putting, Julia's not here. I clicked on camera 3. Let's go to the VT1, as we call it, videotape 1. It's old television terminology for graphics. This IQ foil class in collaboration with Starboard and World Sailing, as we told you on Tuesday, has created a complete video guide to IQ foil. This is the new Olympic windsurfer, foiling windsurfer, giving insights into the equipment setup and formats, demonstrating exactly how easy it is to learn windsurfing. Well, okay, foiling and racing. With the technical beginner's education based on the RYA's, the Royal Yachting Association's windsurfing teaching models, the IQ foil video guide is here to make learning windsurfing and foiling more accessible than ever before. And I commend it to you. We showed you on Tuesday videos 1 and 5, and I was I was politely accused by some of you of getting modern. You go from talking about the Royals, which, okay, I put that Royal thing just before this, and then going and talking about foiling. You're getting too modern, Ehman. You got to settle down. Well, I like this whole IQ foil thing. I like these videos for any number of reasons. Least of all is the example it sets for all of us at our home clubs and classes. My daughter, Meg, even can produce stuff. So you've got to all have people in your clubs and classes like Meg who can produce equally nice stuff. And you don't have to have fancy equipment or a lot of experience to put something like this together, especially if you find some kids who are YouTubers or TikTokers, God forbid. Watch this. This is video 4 of the series. We covered the kind of the basics and then tacking. Well, this is the jibing video. Very well done.
The IQ85 offers a huge amount of tuning for not only in fin mode, but also in foiling mode. There are several different things that you can tune to get the best out of the wind range for this board and the best for your racing. There are several foot strap inserts on the board, and I can move the foot straps forward or back depending on what I want to achieve. I can move the foot straps back for maximum lift, or I can move them forward for more leverage or reduce lift. The further forward my weight comes, the less lift I'll get. The further back my weight goes, the more lift I'll get. The other option I have is actually moving the foot straps closer together or wider apart. To begin with, and when I'm first foiling, having my foot straps further apart gives me better weight transfer, and it makes it easier to control the foil. However, over time, as your skills improve and you get better, moving them closer together makes you taller on the board and gives you more leverage. By having more leverage, you'll get more speed on the foil and you're more likely to be able to go better upwind or maybe even better downwind. So it may mean that you move other parts of the foiler board to offset what you've done with your foot straps. Once your mast and your foiler in the board, you can change its angle. If you rake it slightly backwards, when you're sailing along, the nose will sit slightly higher in the air. If you rake it slightly forwards, when you're sailing along, the nose will dip slightly down towards the water. If you run with a high nose, you may well have a little bit more control in rougher conditions. If you run nose down, you may get foiling a little earlier, but it might be harder to control in rough water or going downwind. The IQ foil set comes with 2 fuselages, the 95 Plus and the 115 Plus. The 115 Plus is the best for upwind downwind racing, but also gives you the most power and the most lift. The 95 Plus gives you a little more control. So the 95 Plus might be best for those smaller riders or those learning skills, whereas the 115 will give you the best performance in light winds or the most power to go up and downwind. The IQ foil fuselage is unique because I can change the angle of the rear wing. With a series of plastic shims, I can increase the power from the foil or reduce the power from the foil. The wing comes preset at -2, and the original shim on there is a 0. I can increase the power by putting positive shims on instead. either the plus 0.5 or the plus 1. The bigger the plus, the more power I'll get from the foil, but it will slightly increase the drag. I can also put minus shims on. Minus shims will reduce the power from the foil, but they'll also reduce the drag. So in theory, going faster. So remember, if you want more power or more lift, positive shims. The 0 sits in the middle. If you want less power, but more speed and less drag, go for the minus shims. Just like with the foot straps, the further back you move the mast foot, the more power and the more lift you'll get from the foil. So if you're looking for early performance or you're a heavier sailor, then having a mast foot further back will give you more power. With the mast foot right at the front, you've got more control over the foil. You've got less lift, so this might work for lighter sailors or in more extreme conditions. The other time you might choose to do this is if you're powered up on a reach rather than going up and downwind. A move of a couple of centimetres can make a massive difference. So remember, further forward for control and less lift. Further back will give you more power and more lift.
I think part of the reason I like to play these videos, and I hope you all are enjoying them, is that I think this show is about movers and shakers. All of you on here watching are somehow, in a big way or a smaller way, internationally or locally, movers and shakers in our sport. That's the kind of person who's attracted here, and we love that. And I think to the extent we can educate ourselves on every aspect of the sport and stay current, and also look at the past and respect the history, we're all better off. And who was it? Gordon Smith said, "Wonderful thing about sailing is that it is a broad church where everyone can find something to enjoy and appreciate." Now, if Julia were here right now, I could take a break. I could cut to camera 2 or to camera 3 and say, "Julia, what do you think?" She would say something pithy and erudite and educated, like she is the Stanford grad that she is, vice president of her class, whatever she was. And she's well. She's just taking a long weekend off, the Valentine's weekend. She will be joining us on Tuesday, if God and the internet willing. But back to our comments here. I see Atkins is saying, "Steve, in Connecticut, I'm told by another old guy windsurfer that once on the foil, the loads are halved or more of what they are without foils. This is a game changer for us mature sailors, never too old to learn." Well, one can only hope. The only thing I move and shake is me, Wet Hog. It's nice to have Wet Hog on here. I haven't seen you on in years. He was a denizen, maybe still is, of the Sailing Anarchy forums. Replying to Stingray, "New, I see quotes of 10 grand USD. I guess that's talking about these kiteboards that we're looking at. My mother, Janice Davis, I saw something. Yeah, Ted Ryman agreed. Great video. The board looks like it has a lot of volume. I'm curious why it's designed that way. I think, Mark, you can hear that from you know Mark. He's asking a question. He knows the answer to it. It's because the boat, the foil will also displace in the learning phase, and it's a lot easier to get up when you're on something that's a little more stable and a little more voluminous, if that's the right term. That's not necessarily a naval architecture term. John is saying you need to remember these are slow compared to the kite surfers. Yeah, okay, but they're a hell of a lot safer and a lot easier to sail. And that's also what I think my mother is saying. How about some pictures of wing foilers? Well, Mom, you're reading my mind as usual, as she has for all of her almost 90 years now, or my 70 years. She knows that one of my brothers has become a big wing foiler, and any number of others of you. We told you here on San Francisco Bay, we got a big wing foil regatta coming up here in, I think, about a month from now, in the middle of March. That seems to be the big deal, taking over the sport. The guys standing on boards with wings in their hands rather than at the end of strings way up there. But I digress. I just think that we should enjoy all of this. In fact, Leo Takahashi is on. "Hello, Tom, from Wanji, New South Wales. Indeed, it was Jody's dress that he wears hanging up on the railing." I'll dig that picture back out. Julie Aaron, so jealous at 115 pounds and 70 years old, I can't sail those wonderful boats. Big time bummers. Well, maybe you can, Julie. I mean, you give it a whirl. There will still be a lot of pumping on the starboard ley line. John Emmett, who's on now on YouTube, he's back and forth. Okay. Wet Hog is saying, I quit the AC, the Sailing Anarchy forums a while ago. Too many sock puppets. Yeah, that's one of the nice things about our group here is, again, if you're watching this in replay, as we often say at the end of the show, but I'll say it now, please do comment. Julia says this. You're welcome to comment. But because our group is so respectful of everyone else, there is no name calling. There are no personal attacks. There's no coarse language. I mean, just look at all these comments. Replying, there's some tweaking. There's some good-natured fun, like talking about Jody's underwear or his dress. Well, he did. He showed us his dress. Stingray's laughing at Leo. We already do 100 messages. I hear Jody has been coaching Leo in the Moth. Rob Fry. And of course, as you know, Rob Fry is, Joey, I assume you all know this. Rob Fry is Leo's dad down in New Zealand. Peter Wharton, have you seen Ralphie Steitz flying? No, I haven't. I'd pay good money to see that. Ralphie's not quite my age, but he's a hell of a lot fitter. And I've done several cup campaigns with Ralphie Steitz, one of the coolest guys in our sport. Have not, what else? Wingrove says he stayed out of the forums too. Okay, shall we go on? You're going to, accuse me of being progressive, some of you, again, because we're going to talk now about the WASP, which they have a video series that's out. A lot of you commented about how cool we showed you a couple of their videos, one of them anyway. And then we got a regatta coming up here, I've just learned about, here in the North Bay at Richmond Yacht Club. We'll tell you about that after this video. Roll video.
Hi, my name is Matt Beck. This video is going to focus on jibing. My 3 key points for jibing are: speed is your friend, move your body early, and don't steer too fast. Let's have a look in more detail. First, let's look at the angle we're jibing through. Take a look at this footage from above and notice the smoothness of the curve. Notice a smooth entry, consistent middle section, and slightly sharper exit. The boat slows down during the manoeuvre, so we sail a slightly hotter angle on the exit to build our speed. Once we're happy that we're back at full speed, we can bring our boat back down to our VMG angle. At the end of this turn, you can see the boat beginning to bear away on more of a downwind course. As the wind gets lighter, the angle we jibe through gets bigger, and we need to sail higher to stay on the foils. In light wind conditions, it would look something like this. As it gets windier, the opposite is true, and the angle we need to jibe through gets smaller. In windier conditions, it would look something like this. Notice how early in the turn my body moves across to the new side. In fact, I'm sitting on the new wing bar before the boat is at a dead downwind angle. Finding the right balance between the amount of steering and the amount of body movement across the boat is necessary to keep the boat flat and flying through the manoeuvre. At this point, you can see I've moved early as my body and the sail are on the same side. I don't reach a dead downwind angle until about here. From this point, I can steer through the rest of the turn, change my hand, and select the right exit angle for the breeze. Now let's look at some different angles from a lighter wind day and break down the stages of the jibe in more detail. Before we attempt the jibe, we make sure the boat is going fast. Everything is more balanced at speed, the pressure in the sail is much lighter, and the boat has a much better chance of staying on the foils. Throughout the jibe, we're aiming for the heel angle to be somewhere between flat or slightly to leeward. A bit of leeward heel helps the boat to carve through the turn, especially in windy conditions, and it gives you a little bit more margin for error. You should always avoid windward heel on the entry to the jibe. The first step is to take your back foot out of the tow strap and straighten your leg to get your back foot towards the centre line of the boat. As you do that, slide your hand down the main sheet towards the block and take in an armful of sheet. This deloads the sail and gets out of the way of the wing bar so that you can cross the boat more easily. Sit your body up and begin to move across the boat. Sailors that are used to conventional boats will feel the instinct to start turning at this point, but don't steer yet. Lead with your tiller hand and begin to transfer your weight off your bum onto your feet and knees. At this point, you can start the turn, but only steer a tiny bit. Whilst the tiller extension is moving across the boat, the actual tiller has barely moved. Many sailors learning to jibe reach this point and hesitate, but continue to steer, leading to a capsize to the old windward side. When troubleshooting a bad jibe, if you capsize to windward, you have probably steered too much or moved too slowly, or a combination of the two. If you capsize to leeward, you probably haven't steered enough or moved too quickly, but this is much less common. It is important to keep moving your body all the way from wing to wing without stopping in the middle. Reach your tiller hand across the boat and plant it on the new wing bar. This helps you maintain a smooth turn rate and keep your balance as you shift your weight to the new side. If you don't do this, you will find the steering wobbly and the boat difficult to control. Bring your front foot across the noodle and push off it to move your weight onto the new wing. Here you can see me going onto my knees, but in windier conditions I would sit directly onto the wing bar. If you get across the boat early, you will feel like you have much more time to choose your exit angle. If you cross the boat late, everything becomes rushed and the outcome won't be as smooth. I like to change my hands as I sit down, but it is also fine for you to change your hands after you're sat down and are comfortable. Give the main sheet a good hard pump to pop the battens, get your feet under the tow strap and get back onto that VMG angle. Let's watch that again in full speed and take a look at the onboard camera. Step 1, make sure you're going fast. Step 2, take your back foot out of the tow strap and start to sheet in the main sheet. Step 3, shift your body inboard without oversteering. Step 4, extend your tiller hand towards the new wing bar. Step 5, bring your front foot over the noodle and push off, stabilising yourself with your tiller hand on the new wing bar. Step 6, swap your hands and sit down. Step 7, pop the battens. Step 8, put your feet under the tow strap and find your VMG angle, and that's you done. That's it for this jibing video. Best of luck with your jibes and watch out for more videos in this series.
Bravo Zulu. Bravo freaking Zulu to whoever PKC Media is in the WASP class and the RO. I don't know who else is involved in these, but they're absolutely, in my never so humble opinion, just brilliant. And there are a lot of comments, a lot of questions. A big question about, Fritz Mueller, well done video, about the prodder, about this, the dangly thing hanging off the bow. You know, they're now calling the person on the SailGP boats the pilot. There's the helm driving, steering the boat, and then the person in charge of the ride height and the ride control, calling them the pilot. You might think of that as an autopilot. It's the prodder, I think, is what the term of art is, right, John Emmett? Others are saying the prodder. And that it automatically controls, it goes, and it's attached to, and it goes down, and it attaches to the foil, and it automatically controls the ride height, is the best explanation we can give. Tier de Jong is saying, great video, well done. I love the noise of the foil when it's hammering. Husted really liked the fact that we're playing a few of these videos. He's a big fan of the WASP as well. A lot of you asked during the show on Tuesday, why isn't this an Olympic class? And I think, one would not be surprised if this ended up being an Olympic class sooner than later. So Gordon Smith, I hope that answers the question. And a lot of you who have chipped in on that, thanks. The WASP looks really hard to sail, Stingray. Say, yeah, it is. It's challenging. But look at how easy they've made it. I mean, those of you who are old and remember the first time the laser came around and we thought, God, compared to the Sunfish or to some of these other smaller board boats, as we called them, the laser was tippy and, you rolled the thing to windward. And now everybody sails the laser, like not as well as John Emmett does, but pretty well. Just wish there were similar instructional videos on the Moth, Warren Chaucer down in Brisbane. I was just saying. Emmett is saying the issue with a new Olympic class, it means an existing Olympic class probably needs to go. You think, John? Keeps from porpoising, Alan Long. Yeah, it's called a wand and it performs magic, Jody Shields is saying. It does indeed. Okay, let me carry on here from any other comments. Yeah, Mark Reed is telling you see there the second to last comment. The Richmond WASP North American, it's called the Americas Championship, is March 17th through 20th interesting you should mention that, Mark. That's what I was leading into that video with. And just to tease you, I like this expression you see in the handwriting at the top. It says, join the swarm. The 2022 Americas Championships are here in San Francisco, actually in the North Bay up in Richmond Yacht Club, which is really the premier small boat club in this part of the country, if not the world. I mean, it's just a fabulous club. And the 15th through the 19th of March, they're hosting the first ever WASP Americas. I don't know why they have apostrophe S, but that's okay. Entries are flooding in for the inaugural Americas Championships with already 40 boats from the USA, Canada, Argentina, Hawaii, UK, France, Spain, and France. Is France listed twice, giving this event a full international flavors. It's spelled not the American way, but the British way. But from the 16th to the 19th, the waters off San Francisco and Richmond Yacht Club will come to life. I doubt they're going to get down here into the main Central Bay, but who knows? The waters off San Francisco and Richmond Yacht Club will come to life as we expect over 60 boats to race. Make sure you get your entry and do not miss this incredible opportunity to enjoy everything a WASP event has to offer. And I will go over there and at least have a look. I really like Richmond Yacht Club. I've given any number of talks over there over the years, and we'll go over it maybe with a video camera and do a John Emmett style interview with some of the people, or maybe Mark Reed will, or one of others of you watching. John Emmett is saying there, I was chatting to someone today who is doing that event, aggrieved. Joyce Chiarella, who's St. Francis member, but now living out in Hawaii, semi-retired out there. Agree, RYC does best job with small boat regattas. Yes, thank you, Joyce. Terrific job. Karen Robertson, we have a guy, Karen up in Scotland, we have a guy who's probably in his 70s, joined our club with a WASP. He was sailing it on a local river, but it's not a boat for a bit of water, 100 meters wide and lined with trees. Yeah. Like our whole little home lake in Michigan, where it's puffy and shifty, these boats are a real challenge, but nonetheless, they can still be sailed. So, and now they're having hey, David James, John Emmett, they could always drop the fin. Oh, no, wait. Neil Collingridge is saying, replying to the TP-52 offshore yacht, the Olympic classes will always be a big issue and a big discussion. We'll talk about it here. 49er Star Etchells. Joyce is also a member of Richmond Yacht Club. Good to hear. Trevor Parek. I'll be sailing it. Good, Trev. Trev, do we know each other? It's a new name on here. Welcome to the show. Delighted to have you with us. And if you're just joining us, we're about 48 minutes into our regular TFE Live, which is our, I guess, video podcast is what they're being called these days. But it's a live video podcast every Tuesday and Friday. We air at 2000 UTC, irrespective of your time zones, or daylight time, or wintertime, summertime. And we air both on our Sailing Illustrated Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, and my Twitter page. And increasingly, we're getting many more views now on the YouTube on the Sailing Illustrated TV page. Thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to this regatta at Richmond Yacht Club the 16th through the 19th of March, just in a month's time, month and a week. Join the swarm. That's what these are. It's not a fleet, it's a swarm at Richmond Yacht Club. And this picture is for Andrew Pindar, who is a big supporter of Foiling Week and of the Magenta Project. And I just love this. This is obviously a moth, not a, oh, it's a wasp. It is a wasp. Cool. And a lady, a woman, sailing the wasp. Trevor, thank you. We don't know each other, but I enjoy watching. We're delighted to have you on and that you'll be sailing it. Maybe you can do a video for us a la the John Emmett style reporting. That would, anybody that, again, that wants to do this. Gordon Smith's done one. Peter Taylor in New York's done one, and we appreciate John's doing one every show, not just every week, but every show. That brings us a question from Stingray. Where on the bay will the race course be? Normally, Richmond sails, they come out of the bay up there, Richmond Bay, I guess it's called. Joyce will know better than I or Trevor. And normally they just come out a little bit into the North Bay. They don't come all the way down here to the Central Bay because it's a long way. But they maybe for a race or two, or maybe they have a distance race. I don't know. Be cool. We'll follow that carefully. Ken Saban is saying we have the Flying Scot Nationals here on Lake Erie this summer, and he's wondering if I'll go back and sail in that. I'm probably not. I raced the Flying Scot as a kid from age 9 on and won 3 North American championships back in the 70s, but I haven't sailed a Scot in a long time. Great boat. There's thousands of them in this country. It's a big 19-foot bathtub. It's a big thistle, a small Highlander designed by a Scottish gentleman, the late, great Sandy Douglas. Cool boat. Thanks for that, Ken Saban in Toledo. Now, this day in history, it's really this weekend in history. Do you know what happened in this period 12 years ago? The 12th through the 14th, there were a couple of minor races that happened in 2010. Here's your first clue. And if that looks like the picture behind me, you would be right. Stingray's favorite painting, he wants that. He's offered to buy that from me, but I really can't do that. That is, speaking of a Rochester Yacht Club member, that's painted by a famously cool Rochester and St. Francis Yacht Club member. And where's the signature by Jimmy DeWitt here? You can see maybe in the corner. I don't know if you can see it on this camera. I guess you can't. Jim DeWitt, who's closing in on 100 years old. He's 90, mid-90s, I think. The dog fight, Andrew Pindar is saying, yeah, it was not a one-horse race. But I've got 3 videos because this was a big deal in the modern history of the sport. And this is a brief video that was shot by Sky TV, I think, about a week before the event when both teams are practicing in Valencia leading up to that, what we now know as AC-33. Have a look.
Is it a boat or is it a plane? Well, it's sort of both, actually. It's the American trimaran that's aiming to win the America's Cup and snatch back the trophy from Europe. The BMW Oracle team have used airline technology to build a boat so technically advanced, even the crew weren't sure it could sail.
We've been looking at drawings of the wing for quite a while, but the first time we all saw it in reality, I guess the reaction was unanimous. You know, everyone just went wow, and that was a typical reaction. And frankly, it is an amazing piece of engineering and amazing performance.
That's in San Diego.
Yeah, initially everyone was pretty, a little bit nervous and on edge, but as soon as we started to put the boat through its paces, then everyone relaxed a little and really started to enjoy it.
Following almost 2.5 years of court battles, the 33rd America's Cup will be raced without the usual restrictions on boat design. So team owner Larry Ellison has spent an estimated £55 million of his fortune to build the fastest, biggest boat possible. The 3 hulls are made of carbon fibre and are 6 metres longer than a tennis court. But the most incredible thing is the rigid sail. At 57 metres high, it's taller than Nelson's column and longer than the wing of the biggest passenger plane in the world. It's made with materials used on aeroplane wings and works in a similar way. There's a main wing with computer-controlled flaps that catch even the lightest of winds. And that's the big deal, because Swiss opponents Alinghi have a conventional soft sail on their equally huge catamaran. The Americans are convinced their sail is better by far.
The big advantage with the wing over a soft sail is that you can dump a whole bunch of camber into the wing quickly, and therefore change the amount of power that you can have. You can make the adjustment almost instantaneously and get a dramatic effect, a dramatic change, very, very quickly. With a soft sail, you can't really achieve it as dramatically.
The huge trimaran shown here with a soft practice sail is now being shipped from California to Valencia for the Monster Showdown in February. But neither team has yet tested their boats in rough winter conditions in the Mediterranean. In the end, the winner may come down not to the fastest boat, but the one that simply survives. Alec Wilkinson, Sky Sports.
Alec Wilkinson, who's been a reporter about sailing for Sky Sports, and I don't know where he is now, but I'd never seen that video until I was researching, putting this segment together, and found it on YouTube. Nice retrospective piece. That was, again, shot before, obviously, the event, and whether the boats held together or not, as he pontificated. It wasn't quite true. Both boats, as you know, did hold together. It wasn't very windy for either race. But truth be told, our boat, the Trimaran, if it had to sail another couple miles in that race, the ball on which that wing is rotating on a ball joint, and that ball and the wing had pretty well frozen up, and the whole thing may have crumbled had we had to race, or had the team had to race much longer. Stingray, who's on here, one of our great FOSI, was one of the first non-team members to see that boat in the shed, because as he points out, Dogzilla was built and assembled at Anacortes, which is just up north of Seattle, about an hour and a half, and he coined that name. It got used in newspapers as large as the New York Times, and as I said, he was among the first to see it. There's Pindar's. Alec? Just Andrew, give us a little more than the link. Tell us what Alec Wilkinson is up to, because he did a terrific job with that and many other pieces. How come that race took place in the winter in the Northern Hemisphere? Gordon Smith is asking. Well, that's a good question, because the deed of gift says it must be between April and November, May and November. Hamish Ross is on here. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. May and November if it's in the Northern Hemisphere, or May and October, and then November and March. Is it? I can't remember the cusp months, but if between November and March, if it's in the Southern Hemisphere. And that was an amendment to the deed of gift, actually, leading up to the 87 match, because when the deed was first written, they never anticipated it would be in the Southern Hemisphere. It just said it had to be in the Northern Hemisphere summer months for the America's Cup to be held. And then when the Aussies, when Royal Perth Yacht Club, Alan Bond, John Bertrand et al. Won it in Newport 83, the deed had to be amended. And it was a friendly amendment. Everybody agreed. The court barely even looked at it. But they did amend it. It's one of the, two, Hamish, amendments, actual amendments? Dogzilla, deed of gift, because it was a deed of gift match, Stingray is saying. So I hope that answers the question. Oh, I didn't answer the question. The reason was the court ordered it. We went to court to try to sort out the venue and the timing, and the court, there was really no objection. We said, okay, Valencia in February, and neither side objected to that date, and the court said, that's it. So it was in February, irrespective of the requirements of the deed. There have been two sets of amendments, Hamish is saying. It's May and November. Is it May and November inclusive, Hamish? So you have to race it by the end of November or the beginning? I think it's November 1st, isn't it? 1st of May through the end of October? And then, I can't remember. Hamish will look that up for us. Judge Herman Kahn, Mark Orton Reed is saying, there wasn't an Antonov big enough. A lot of other comments. Go back, as Julia always reminds us, go back and read the comments. They're fabulous. Bill Wingrove, for example, is saying, before the start, commentators are talking about A5, Alinghi 5, having the advantage in light air. 17, USA 17, this boat. Larry has a fetish, is not the right word, but 17 is auspicious in Japan. Japanese culture. Larry is a Japophile. He loves, and that's why he is always 17's been his favorite number. 17 sailed up to A5, who was coming back downwind. The cranked up wing and lifted the boat up on one hull. After they sailed by A5, they dropped her down and set up for the start. At that point, I knew they were going to be okay. I have never found footage of that event. Oh, I have someplace. I'll dig that up at some point, Bill Wingrove. Commentator was Crutonic. What commentator? Well, okay, I'm not sure what Steve Atkins is talking about. Any other comments? Replying to Gordon Smith. Ooh, we are going to have to do the heavy lift transport again. Well, we'll see. Now, I have another video. This one is an AC-33, which was the organizing committee for the race in Valencia, and it was staffed by Alinghi. So it's a little bit more, quite a bit more from an Alinghi standpoint, because the last video I'm going to show you, a brief one, is quite a bit more from the Oracle Team USA, or whatever we were called then. Have a look at this very, very good video nonetheless, gives you a feel for how cool that event was, notwithstanding it was a big S fight in court leading up to it for a couple of years. And it was in February, cold, chilly. Stingray was there on a spectator boat, several others of you as well. But a nice report here by one of our favorite sailors. Have a look.
Hola, welcome
Sebastian
for your Valencia Day.
Destremau. The Alinghi base in Valencia. This is a report on race day one, I should say.
After almost a week of patience, the wait was finally over. Race 1 of the 33rd America's Cup took place on Friday afternoon in Valencia, and what a race it has been. Following a few hours of waiting for the wind to settle, both boats entered the start box going head-to-head at 24 knots of speed. Despite having the starting line being heavily pin-biased, when Alinghi realized they could not quite cross in front of USA, they had to quickly turn and give way. James Pittil lined up Ernesto Bertolli beautifully and caught Alinghi tacking in USA's water. The umpires gave a penalty on the Swiss boat, however, a few seconds before the start, James Pittil lost control of USA, allowing Alinghi
He parked the boat up.
It only took a
on the
few
wrong
minutes
side
for
of the
many
line.
observers to notice that Alinghi seems to be less stable than USA going upwind. The American boat develops more power with her huge wing sail, allowing the middle hull to stay a few centimeters above the water and stay there. However, as soon as the wind picked up a little to the low teens, the Swiss boat looked more alive and could actually keep up with the American boat or even be a touch faster at times. Despite the somewhat poor start from Australian ace James Pittil, the delta at the top mark was 3 minutes 21 in favor of USA, or a 1,500 meters lead. In about an hour and a quarter going downwind, the American team increased this distance to complete the race with a staggering 10 minutes lead, although the official delta was 15 minutes. So after race 1 of the 33rd America's Cup, USA is 1 up on Alinghi and 1 win away from taking the cup. But there is still a long way to go to get there. I'll see you tomorrow. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. That was race day 1, which was the 12th. It's the 12th down under now, so we can use this day in history. But it was really the second race was 2 days later on the 14th. And it was quite some time getting that first race off on the 12th. Bad weather, too much wind, not enough wind. But we finally got it off. The race committee, Harold Bennett, finally got it off on the 12th. And it was first to win 2, straight deed of gift match, as you all know. And the first race course is prescribed by the deed of gift to be 20 miles to windward and return. The second race course, which was 2 days later on Valentine's Day on the 14th, is an equilateral triangle, 13 miles on each leg. So it's about the same length, 39 miles instead of 40, 13, 13, and 13. And that's what the original America's Cup race courses were back in the day, late 1800s, until they started getting into the more Olympic style, windward, leeward, and reaching, and so on. So 40-mile courses. And yeah, you could see the wing was pretty powerful. And it was still surprisingly close racing, both races. In fact, the second race, even more so. And I have a video, Stingray saying John Kostecki called a perfect ley line to tack on in the second race from way out. Yeah, that's true. I can't wait for the AC40 now, Krasimir. I'm off is saying, Wet Hawk, still waiting for your story about EB's buddy trying to stop the start of race 2 on the committee. Well, we'll talk about that on another day, Wet Hawk. Thank you. Over 3 minutes to 15 minutes. At this point, I lost interest. Yeah, and that timing difference, of course, by the time Alinghi did their penalty, that's how it got from whatever it was to really a long ways back. Now, this is the trailer to a movie, a 50-some-odd minute movie called The Wind Gods, which Larry produced, which our team produced. that was released after the event, which sort of amalgamates the two races. And I don't know if I played the trailer before on the show, but it gives you, again, a flavor, at least from our team standpoint, of what happened in Valencia 12 years ago this week.
It's the limits of what's possible in sailing in the 21st century. This is extreme sailing.
We'll probably never see something like this again, not in our lifetimes.
It was a quest, building the best possible team we could build, building the fastest possible boat, and seeing if we could bring the America's Cup back to America.
Human ingenuity with the oldest trophy in international sport at stake.
Larry Ellison said, BMW Oracle sailing team is much better than yours.
It's quite funny coming from Larry Ellison. What is he gonna do if he loses?
Ernesto took the rules and just tore them up.
Ernesto, why are you doing this?
It's like a heavyweight championship fight where the fighters don't like each other very much.
And may the best team win.
The America's Cup. It is a race sailed across tides and generations.
Representing your country in an international sporting event? I get chills just talking about it.
In Valencia, Spain, the America's Cup on the line today.
For me, you know, it's a dream come true.
USA 17 is flying. Look at her go.
It was really sort of knife edge.
Oh my goodness, that's too close for comfort.
Both boats were redlining the whole time.
The American team could be in trouble.
We thought we had a much faster boat.
Alinghi out in front. USA 17 playing catch-up.
We never should have let him get that separation.
There is no second place in competition in the game of life. First place is all there is.
It's a cruel fate.
Heart-pounding drama.
That luck plays a part.
USA is getting closer. Can they catch Alinghi? Here they come!
It's to some degree in the hand of the wind gods.
Incredible! Unbelievable! What a race!
Okay, incredible! What a race! Yeah, the Wind Gods is the name of the feature. Well, documentary really. It's 50 some odd minutes long, narrated, of course, by Jeremy Irons, that fabulous voice of his. It's on YouTube. The whole big piece is on there. If you just Google Wind Gods, the Wind Gods, or America's Cup 33, or any other combination or permutation of those words, that full length will come up, as several of you asked. What other comments? Yeah, they're talking about how young Russell looked. I haven't changed a bit, right? 12 years later. Thanks, Peter Taylor. Yeah, so there, Krasimir Naumov is somebody will put it on here. Clark Chapin. Oh, you found it already. Thank you, Krasimir. Thank you very much. And Stingray saying the video was produced by Larry's son, by his both his kids, both his son and daughter, in the filmmaking business in Hollywood. So naturally a touch of grandiose for Larry, but it is very well done. It's a good picture, and we had a big red carpet. What do you call it? A debut when you release the film. It was good fun. Did that here we did that in San Francisco, I guess. Stingray saying, when Tom let me into the tent in San Diego and I got to see the to-be exposed wing. Yeah, well, Stingray got into the tent up in Ana Cortez and saw the boat. We built the wing subsequent to that, but Stingray saw that in San Diego. He got a sneak peek. I just couldn't believe how big it was. 234 feet tall, biggest wing ever built of any kind, indeed. And Pindar is also saying, they're back and forth, but Andrew is also saying that Alec Wilkinson, Alex, he is doing a lot of world sailing broadcasting too. He's a fairly young guy, and having done that for Sky TV 12 years ago, it was a good piece that he did, that first video that we ran. Wingrove is saying TFE gave yeah, I remember that, Bill, when he was in Cali for a job interview, and there's some guys who were standing outside on the chain link fence trying to look in, and And, oh, God, this is so cool. Who are you? Well, I'm so-and-so. You may know my brother. And I think, Bill, he used your Sailing Anarchy pen name, your handle. And I said, oh, come on in. So I brought him in, and then you wrote it up, or he wrote it up or something. And then everybody said, oh, maybe those Oracle guys aren't so bad after all. Well, they were keenly interested. And we did that for some kids and for some other people as well. Too tall to fit under the Golden Gate Bridge, Clark Chapin is reminding us. Well, yeah, that's right. The collapse of the soft sail mast pushed up the use of the wing, didn't it? Well, not really. We had another mast, and we could have gone. But that's this day in history that we like. I know a lot of you like the cutting-edge stuff, and we like the America's Cup history, especially I know John Emmett loves the America's Cup. Right, John? The history. Okay, so much for that segment. Let's, speaking of the America's Cup, we'll get into an AC-37 Cup date. And the big news, I guess, coming out of Auckland, reported both by Magnus, the Magnificent, and more extensively by Richard Gladwell, is that American Magic is quitting. As I said in the show flow at the top, the outline of the show, American Magic is quitting Auckland, shipping back to the States. Auckland's obituary, this is Magnus writing on his Rule 69 blog today. Auckland's obituary should not need to be written. I'm not writing it. But the fall from the epicenter of the world to one-horse town run by tin pot dictators, wow, Magnus, and political agitators at the bottom of the globe has been faster than a stock market flash crash. It's desperately sad to see. I actually don't want to see it. I'm in denial, but the party's over, barring a last-minute miracle that he says isn't coming. Viewing the photos sent into him, some of these are photos that he used on his blog today. Uncredited apologies by a German reader. Some are Richard Gladwell photos. By a German reader of his very fine Rule 69 blog. It's free. Subscribe to it. I commend it to you. Of American Magic's base being deconstructed and Patriot shrink-wrapped and ready for shipping reminds me, Clark Chapin, you'll love this, reminds me of Detroit after the car industry left. That's pretty harsh, but, Magnus has a flair. Julia loves his flair. So there was, wait, there's more. There's a picture of the final takedown of American Magic's after the last race. You can see how breezy it was. What a beautiful place to sail a regatta, Auckland, the Hauraki Gulf. I can't imagine running the America's Cup anyplace else. This is more of Magnus. He says, but if pictures tell 1,000 words, the Cup is off to pastures unknown. I checked with the team, meaning American Magic, yesterday, and they were saying little. What else could they say? After the Magic boats leave, only Te Rehute will remain as a lasting memory of a fabulous cup run in New Zealand. It, too, won't be long there. Won't be there long. Memories have been made, but it's over for now. The bases will be dismantled. Local government will erect the next generation of the millennial housing and faux industry, and slowly the remnants of the cup will be dismantled. Sad but true. Or so asserts our Fozy, longtime friend Magnus, the Magnificent, Magnus Wheatley, on his Rule 69 blog today. As you all know, I'm not quite so sure that's the way it's going to play out, but we will see. Now, what one hears is that ETNZ has to move out of that big, what was a community center and a special events center there on the viaduct, and they are in the process of moving out of there into the old INEO space. So they're staying there, at least for now, at least their operations and their headquarters, their design team, and so on. Now, here are some pictures. I don't know if this is a Gladwell picture or is another one that I got from from Magnus's blog of the American Magic base. Obviously, the tents are being taken down. This is Richard Gladwell writing in Sail World today. sail-world.com. The last remaining challenger from the 36th America's Cup is packing up their base and preparing to leave Auckland. American Magic, representing the New York Yacht Club, has pulled all their equipment out of one of their temporary bases, and it is now being dismantled. The roof was dismantled on Wednesday, a couple days ago. Sail World attempted to contact the team for comment, but did not get a reply. Sail World previously reported that the team had been trying to obtain quarantine positions in Auckland so they could start sailing from September 17, 2022, the first permitted sailing date for an America's Cup team who competed in AC 36. And I can confirm A1 here's exactly as Richard Gladwell has reported about the team not wanting to leave, wanting to sail there, but couldn't get the couldn't get through the New Zealand quarantine system to get the necessary permits to get people in there. Richard goes on to say, Richard Gladwell, confirmation of American Magic's departure is the third blow in a week for the New Zealand marine industry. Earlier this week, it was announced that the New Zealand entry in the ocean race, TOR, 2022-2023, was withdrawing, citing COVID issues and the bypassing of Auckland as a stopover port, which also means they couldn't find the sponsorship money, because without the event stopping there, as in the past, why would a local sponsor at least, or a national sponsor, want to get involved? On Friday, today, it was announced that the Auckland Boat Show, which had been heavily oversubscribed for space and due to be staged in mid-March, was being canceled due to the COVID restrictions imposed by the NZ government after some very creative modeling of the impact of the Omicron variant of the virus. Currently, cases sit at just over 400 per day when the modeling, which led to the imposition of the red light lockdown status, predicted 80,000 positive cases per day in mid-February. You can tell Richard is not a big fan of the government and of the lockdowns. And he's not even a trucker. Ironically, or maybe he is, ironically, several new accommodation facilities, including apartments, have almost reached completion there in the viaduct and are within an easy 5-minute walk of the team bases, and would have been ideal for the challengers had AC 37 stayed in Auckland. That's our Fozy regular on this show. Hadn't been on in a few months. We'll get him back on again. Richard Gladwell down in New Zealand, the Kiwi editor of sail-world.com. I still think it's going to be there. I still think there's some things going on that I am not at liberty to report. And I think these three gentlemen, plus Hamish Ross, that is Mark Dunphy, Jim Farmer, and Grant Dalton, will somehow come to terms with the local government and with the central government in Wellington. And if this gentleman has anything to say about it, I keep running these photos. Sir Edmund Thomas, or Ted as he's known, former judge, retired judge, including of their Supreme Court in New Zealand, he threatens to sue if the event leaves Auckland. Jim Farmer, whose photo we had on there a minute ago, Jim Farmer, who's also been on the show along with Mr. Dunphy, Mr. Farmer continues to say if it goes to Jeddah, he will sue. And I'm starting to hear that maybe it's going to be Abu Dhabi, not Jeddah, but how would you know? I still think it's going to be in Auckland particularly if this gentleman has anything to say about it. And there is some more local money coming to the fore. One hears some other rich listers willing to join Mr. Dunphy in ponying up and trying to get the money, the corpus together, so that Team New Zealand can survive in good form, be competitive, they can put on a good event. By the way, they don't have to put on the second coming of Christ. This doesn't have to be Ben-Hur. This doesn't have to be, it's a silly sailboat race, okay? It's an historic one. It's the pinnacle of our sport. They can put a nice village together there again in the viaduct and then send some race committee out and run some races. Let the challengers run their own races, find their own money, raise their own money. It can be done without millions and millions of dollars. We've seen it done before. Now, as a couple of you have said, it's interesting that U.S. tech giant Oracle, and I didn't know where to put this in the show, but I've stuck it here in the America's Cup since, as you all know, Red Bull has become a title sponsor of the Alinghi Challenge. Ironically, Oracle now has become a title sponsor of the Red Bull F1 team. Red Bull has revealed that the U.S. tech giant Oracle is its new title sponsor in F1, with the team to be officially named as Oracle. I mean, they get lead position, Oracle, Red Bull Racing, in a reported $100 million per year deal. What used to be Bay Area based, now Austin, Texas based company, Oracle, was already a partner prior to 2022, but now steps up to replace Honda following the Japanese manufacturer's departure from F1. Team principal Christian Horner says the expanded deal is a sign of Oracle's importance to Red Bull, as the team says it was able to run 1,000 times as many simulations pre-race as a result of the partnership. And of course, you all know who won F1, controversially, in that last Grand Prix. But they have, in other parts of this release and some other news reports, the team, Red Bull and Mr. Horner, are giving a lot of credit to Oracle and their simulations. But there's more. Red Bull, quote, Red Bull Racing has been more committed than any other F1 team in its use of technology to gain an edge, and it is paying off, unquote. Kelman, this is an official senior guy at Oracle. Quote, our commitment to this partnership reflects our belief that OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, is a strategic weapon on race day, helps create the most exciting fan experience in sports, and can define the future of F1. Can define the future of F1. Okay, it's a press release. Oracle Red Bull Racing is, and will continue to be, the most forward-thinking and innovative F1 team in the world, unquote. And then our friends at the Associated Press, not Bernie Wilson, he's at the Olympics in Beijing, but the Associated Press is reporting that the 5-year deal is worth around $500 million total, $100 million per year, making it one of the most lucrative sports sponsorship deals. And I can tell you, when I was running the West sponsorship of what was then West McLaren Mercedes over 20 years ago, that sponsorship was 100 million Deutschmarks. This was just before the Euro came in, 100 million D-Marks, which is, in those days, was worth 60 million US per year, both for that was the feed of the team, and then for us to exploit the sponsorship, to leverage the sponsorship. That was my total budget when I was in Hamburg there with West, representing West McLaren Mercedes, which became the name of our team. Now, that's brought a lot of comments, so let's go to the comments. Replying to Gordon Smith, Gordon, money buys exposure for tourism and foreign investors. Let's get GD on the shoe. The Fozy wants some answers. Yeah, major sporting events are being drawn to the Middle East, Gordon Smith is saying. Lots of comments. You have to go back and read the comments. Without Julia here, it's really a lot easier to do the show when Julia's here. Julia, we miss you. I miss you. Stingray is saying, if Dalton is being honest about wanting to defend in Auckland, then he will, quote, show his cards, unquote, to the independent accounting firm, and that way reach a solid support agreement with Kiwi Home Defense folks. If Dalton refuses, well, that says a lot. Now, that's comment is apropos the news we broke on Tuesday. Well, it wasn't, it was news that it was a news alert that we got from the NBR, the National Business Review paper in New Zealand, that published that day, saying that Mr. Dunphy and co. said they would pay for an independent audit, and Mr. Dalton could choose the auditor, come in and audit the numbers, not the previous numbers, but the projections of what it would cost going forward for AC 37. They'd pay for it and then let everybody have the numbers and see really what it's going to cost, how much of that money is going where, because they're talking about $200 million. 120 for the team and 80 to run the event. And there's no way that Malaga, there's no way that Cork's going to come up with that kind of money for both the team and the event. Just not going to happen, folks. Now, will one of the Middle Eastern countries, will Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, come up with that kind of money? Sure, they could. But will they? Will Abu Dhabi or Bahrain? I'm hearing Abu Dhabi more and more, by the way, but who knows? How would you know? Apparently the Jeddah deal is inked and is on the table. You Brits would know. Somebody call up Sir Keith Mills and find out what's really going on, because Origin Sports, Sir Keith Mills, is representing the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron and Emirates Team New Zealand in this venue bidding process. We broke that news a year ago on this show. We showed you the documents. A year ago, I think this week or last week. I digress. Lots of other comments. Wet Hog, it's bad enough Oracle defended in Bermuda, but if ETNZ defends outside Kiwi land, then what's the point of rules like crew nationality and built-in country? It will be, dare I say, a Sail GP knockoff. Interesting and probably valid point. I still think if New Zealand to ETNZ go offshore. If RNZ and ETNZ go offshore, they'll lose. Just like we lost in Bermuda, like Golden Gate and Oracle Team USA, Otusa lost in Bermuda. Gordon Smith replying to back and forth, 100 million per annum almost covers Red Bull's annual cost budget of 140 million US. Well, I think that money is all going into the big pot, Gordon. So we shall see. What other? Okay, I'm not going to go backwards in the comments. There's lots of other. Daltz, Mark Husted, Daltz, Ariel, accountancy of numbers would probably be embarrassing for him, to be honest. Well, I don't know. There's more to come. I can't say what else I hear from various places, but there is more to come from New Zealand and the Kiwi Home Defense on all of this in due course. So stay tuned. We'll try to keep you up to speed as best we can. And as I said, the teams are all getting smart. The various entities, they're telling me, and they're saying, we're going to tell you the truth, but you can't use it. And that shuts me up, because we never break when somebody tells us that. We will never break a confidence. Never, ever. And so far, knock on wood, I haven't. We won't. Some more comments. Jetta is not on. Julie Aaron says, period. Dalton will not sit down, and nor will he sit down with Dunphy and co. Not ever. Julie, who is close, she's got a lot of Kiwi connections, and she may well be right. I heard Oracle is in for $50 million per annum for 3 years, not $500 million. Well, we'll see, David. I don't know. Dalt should speak with Gabe Newell. I don't know, Chris, what that means. Chris Exley. Thanks for that. Chris has had a lot of interesting and insightful comments earlier on today, I noticed. So go back, as I said, and have a read of the comment. As we do, we go back to look not just to see who's Crutonic, but to see the insight, especially those that come on in replay, as many of you do, and leave comments as well. Thanks for that. It's time for Jody's segment, Correct or Crutonic. For those of you who are new here, I'm sure appreciate that Crutonic is a word that, we didn't invent it. It's from everybody asks, where'd that come from? Well, with a C, it's actually French-Canadian. It's a mild pejorative. You crouton. You're just kind of airy, and you can squeeze it, and you crumble, and there's nothing there. Maybe a little garlic in it if it's a garlic crouton, but it's more for salad dressing, not really for taste or a little crunch to your salad. You crouton. And it really is a French-Canadian pejorative. And of course, we respell it in the German K, correct or Crutonic, just to keep giving it a little more international flavor. So what do we have, pray tell, in today's Correct or Crutonic segment? Well, Yachting World, this is the March issue. This magazine, the Brit sailing publication, you got Seahorse and you got a few others, but Yachting World continues to be a terrific publication. You look around the world where there are great sailing magazines still extant, still existing and going on, you can know they've got a great sailing culture. And Yachting World is one of them. And back in the December issue, they did an interview, or they've done several interviews, including with, you know who that is? 2012 gold medalist, laser class, arguably the best sailor in the sport, yachtsman of the year last year for World Sailing, Tommy Slingsby, at the top of the leaderboard in Sail GP again. Rumored to be going with American Magic. He's got an American passport. I think his mom's an American. So you know what this is about? Slingsby, John Emmett, of course, with a quick on the comments. Well, he was interviewed by Yachting World, and they asked the top sailors and marine industry gurus to choose the coolest and most innovative yachts of our times. Olympic gold medalist and America's Cup sailor Tom Slingsby picks the IACC, International America's Cup class as it was originally known. It became known just as the ACC. International America's Cup class yachts. So that's the class that succeeded the 12-meter class. We had the 12s up through 87. Then we had that deed of gift match in 88 in San Diego, not the one we just saw. That was 2010, the 88 match. And then after that, we had a big group of people from all over the world sat down and came up with the IACC, the International America's Cup class, of which 100 of those boats were built between the 88, the 92 was the first IACC event. at least Cup, we had a 91 Worlds. So between 92 and then before 2010, so in 2007 was the last of the IACC era. And 100 boats were built. A lot of teams from all over the world sailed in these boats. Slingsby, for one, says it's the coolest boat in the modern era. That's a picture they used in Yachting World. I didn't come up with that picture. Tom said, I was, quote, I was obsessed by the version 5, we called it, and they went through version 1 through 5, the America's Cup boats back in the early 2000s. I used to sit there and stare at the TV, recalls the 2021 yacht, the World Sailor of the Year, Tom Slingsby. Version 5.0 of the IACC America's Cup Yachts rule was issued in 03, okay, because it started in 90 really, for the 92 Cup. Then version 5, as it evolved, was issued in 03 and governed the boats that were used in the 32nd America's Cup in Valencia 07, the last cup to use the IACC rule. Magnus Wheatley said, landmine, water shifting, old sleds. Yeah, but you know, for certain purposes, that's what you want, Magnus. Slingsby at least thinks so. The boats were lighter, faster, and carried more sail area than the 12s, with a deeper draft keel. 11 challengers raced from 9 countries, including fleet racing in a series of acts. These were the pre-regattas. Acts 1 through Actos in Spanish, 1 through 13. The 32nd Cup was successfully defended, of course, by Alinghi. And there were just a fantastic number of these boats, and you could go back and buy one of the previous boats from the previous Cup, just like you did in the 12-meter era. So you could start to learn about the boat. You could get it on the cheap. You could develop your own program and syndicate, and that's why there were so many challengers. And it was fun. It was great. Eyeballs, television, more teams, more countries, more sponsors. Tom went on to say, or the article did, each IACC yacht with a crew of 17 had a guest 18th man spot. Quote, I was extremely fortunate. I was able to be the 18th person and guest on one of the Oracle boats in 07, recalls Slingsby, the Australian, who was a good friend of Jimmy Spithill, who was then our skipper. For me, no, he wasn't. Spitty in 07 was with Luna Rosa. Our skipper was Chris Dixon. For me, those things are just the perfect blend of technology, beauty, and as a tactical sort of boat, I think they were beautiful to watch, unquote, Tom Slingsby says. Now I ask all of you, and Magnus doesn't agree. Magnus is going to say, Crutonic! Slingsby is Crutonic. For the America's Cup, were we better off? Was that was that the correct class or that style of boat? Correct or Crutonic? I ask you. A Catalina 37 is a great match racing boat. Yeah, it wasn't. It isn't, Bill. It's old and clunky, and it's not as good as these boats were. Catalina 37 is what they run the Congressional Cup in. Reply right on. The most fun team in Valencia's AC 3207 had to be Shaloza, the South African team. Agreed. Stingray, of course. Were you born, Stingray, in South Africa? You grew up there. Correct. David James says correct. Krasimir Naumov says correct. Life has moved on. Gordon Smith says, no, Bill Wingrove kind of sort of correct. Slingers is correct, Greg Phillips says. Steve Gruber says, the racing was so close and refined. Correct, Clark Chapin says, the best boat for match racing has to have a symmetrical spinnaker like the Gulf Cup 22s. John Emmett, it was the correct class, I guess he means, in 07, not in 2024. Or is it going to be 2025? I think John Emmett may be right. I think this thing could be, the Cup AC-37 could get postponed to 2025. I've been saying that for weeks. Replying to Stingray, the party boys. I agree with Slingsby about the boat, but the AC is about new technology. Julie Aarons, good point. Definitely correct, my mother says. Janice F. Davis, my beloved mom. Trevor, the soul of sailing. Great boats, but technology has moved on. Ted Ryman says it's Crutonic. Says Tommy Slingsby's Crutonic. Magnus Wheatley, Crutonic, the 12 meters were better, but the AC-75s and F-50s are the bomb. Okay? Stingray, an American-born, but did spend 8 years in South Africa, RSA, the Republic of South Africa. Scott McLeod says the sheer numbers, and I think he means team sponsors' eyeballs, say correct. Scott McLeod, who is one of the few people to have successfully marketed this sport, especially match racing, for many years, and was the commercial director for American Magic last time, and is a smart boy and a longtime friend. We're going to get Scott on here. Faster boats do not make better match racing. Quite the opposite, David James is saying. Alan Long, sort of correct for its time. Okay, he's a fence sitter, Alan Long. Steve Groover replying to Julie Aarons, there was a lot of new technology in V5, the kind more likely to trickle down as well. Well, I don't know what the answer is. A lot of you think that those boats were better for the America's Cup. Neil Collingridge agrees. And I'll go back and read all your comments. But don't forget that you can't freeze what is in your mind from 2007 and think that's what we would have now had we stayed in big monohulls. Would they be foiling monohulls? Well, that's what we got now. Were those foiling monohulls great match racing boats? I think they were better match racing boats than many of us expected, frankly, in Auckland. Will they be closer and better match racing boats next time? Probably not, because we got another version of the rule. There's some radical differences. 11 down to 8, more battery power. And besides, remember those races when one boat went from 500 meters behind to 500 meters ahead because one of the boats fell off the foils? That was not correct. That was not fun to watch. It wasn't fun for the sailors. It made us look as a sport, quite frankly, croutonic. What other comments? A bit like IOR Mark 3A, John Spangos is saying, oh, there's a bunch of smart people there. I'll watch Con Cup any day of the week before Sail GP or the America's Cup. Gov Cup, too, Bill Wingrove is saying. And Bill from down Tampa, Florida, has been following Gov Cup. That's how I got to know him online, because he had one of his, so remind me the name of the young guy, Bill, who was at Davis Island Yacht Club, who was representing your club at Gov Cup. Did a terrific job. Didn't win it, but he was really top-notch and a gentleman, and his whole team were terrific. An 80-foot version of the TP52 would be perfect, David James says. Dale Carnegie, expect the worst and you will never be disappointed. Thanks, Steve Groover. Greiner Hobbs. That's right, Greiner. You say hi to Greiner next time you see him, Bill Wingrove. Thank you. Clark Chapin, in my humble opinion, to have good match racing, the wind shadow has to extend forward when going downwind, to give an advantage to the trailing boat. A lot of people would agree with you, starting with Andy Rose, Clark Chapin. Replying to David James, absolutely. While I do like many aspects of the AC-75 class, I'm sorry, but bicyclers, which are coming back, Stingray points out, look ridiculous. Well, okay, I agree they sort of look ridiculous. Replying to Clark Chapin, and the wind shadow effect is very different in super fast boats, foilers. Yeah, it is, but we're never going to solve it here. But it is interesting to see people's response. And I'm getting texts, why are you wearing green? We've never seen you wear green before, Blue Blazer in one of my sports. It's because it's so spring-like here in San Francisco. I thought I felt in this, a lot of good news in the sport, maybe not in the world right now. I felt like, I should put on some green and feel spring-like. It's going to be 75 degrees here this weekend, I think. Any other comments before we move on? Pindar. Andrew is saying the 44s, previously the RC 44s, continue to provide age-defying spectacular sailing for both fleet and match racing. Very good point. Their season is starting up again, or has started up. I can't remember. I didn't put it in the show because there's so much else going on. We're an hour and 40 minutes in, and we still have a couple more cool things to show you. Speaking of which, let's go look at Sail GP and another video out from Ineos. They are putting both America's Cup but also Sail GP videos out that are very cool. Roll tape.
As everyone knows, the British team is all about making small changes that make a big difference. Being the safety dive for the team, we have spare airs on board the boat, and every event we have to cable tie them on, cable tie them off, and sitting at home getting a bit annoyed by the amount of cable ties we were using. We have 4 of these on the boat, and these are basically a secondary spare air from what the sailors have on them personally, so if anything does go really wrong, they have this that they can grab, they can pull, and they have a secondary spare air if, for example, the boat's inverted or something like that, and it just gives them that few more moments to escape. originally the spare airs were sat here on the boat and they were cable tied in onto cable tie bases. You can see the 4 bases here. Actually built up, we calculated around 2,000 throughout the whole season cable ties. We wanted to come up with a solution that was a little bit easier for the sailors to be able to pull off, but also sustainability side to keep the level of cable ties and waste plastic, single-use plastic to a minimum. We started to develop a 3D printed clip. This will basically clip in. So we'll do sea trials, make sure it's strong enough to withstand any big crashes or anything like that while we're at sea, that we can pull it on and off easily in a safety aspect. And yeah, all going well, we'll be adding these to all the yachts. The last 3 events we've had different test samples and we've come to the final one, the final product. We did a sea test here in Cadiz and it's gone really well and we're really happy with it. We've had Brad Marsh from the tech team, he signed it off and now it's going to be a fleet-wide edition for every boat.
Yeah, okay. People say, TFE, you're getting woke and you're starting to, talk about women and Girls' Day, International Day of Women in Science, and you're talking about diversity and equity and inclusion. And now you're talking about this kind of stuff. I think it's great. I think the more we have, okay, sure, you're flying boats around, you're in big planes and stuff, and volcanoes go off and maybe change the whole thing. But I still think putting plastic in the ocean is a bad idea. And if you can make these clips biodegradable and anything else we can do to make the boats more environmentally friendly, bravo Zulu. And bravo Zulu to the team and to Russell and co. with SailGP who have been pushing this initiative. Women in sport is a great thing to talk about, Emmett says. I totally agree. And I know Pindar agrees too. Stingray, I'm looking forward to the Super Bowl in LA on Sunday. One hears that O.J. Simpson has the call already, ready for when the kicker lines up and hits the last second field goal for the win. He killed it. Oh, come on, Stingray. That's oh, God. Yeah, Alan Long replying to David James, essentially what Hapfouth and T. Hutch are racing outside of the AC. I'm not quite so sure they're doing much 44 racing, are they? Are they sailing 44s? I think they're sailing Hap's boat, and I think they're sailing the TP52. Maybe you meant the TP52. I want to just go back to Auckland for a minute because several of you commented, and they are, and Magnus is on here, Richard Gladwell may be on here, hasn't commented, but American Magic leaving Auckland isn't because they don't want to sail in Auckland. It's not because they don't think it's going to be in Auckland, although I think the team is being told, hey, it's not going to be here. I think that Mark Reed had this comment to Richard Gladwell's article that I played a minute ago about we showed you after Magnus's comments about American Magic leaving Auckland. Mark Reed said, with Auckland moving into their winter months, American Magic most likely wants their assets back in the U.S. at their team's base in Bristol this summer. Bristol meaning up the shore of Narragansett Bay from Newport. Then Pensacola in the winter. Just like Ineos and LR at Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli, nothing to see here other than common sense to train at home as Cup challengers have done since the beginning. And I think Mark Reed is spot on. And I didn't have time to stick that into my usual show flow here with all the slides, but I asked Mark's permission to use that comment, which he appended to Richard Gladwell's story on sail-world.com, and I thought that was particularly wise and appropriate. They are just keeping their options open, that is American Magic, and they want to be able to use those boats, and if they can't, as Richard Gladwell pointed out, if they can't get into New Zealand because of continuing COVID restrictions, you got to get your equipment the hell out of there so you can use it up here in North America. Any other comments before we wrap this, go into the D block? Women in sports. My mother, who loves Peter Stevenson, sorry, Pedro, foilers are a fad. There is room in the world for sailboat racing for all styles of yachts. Yeah, I think that's right. I think really the question, everybody, is what's the best for the America's Cup? And, we'll see. We're going to see now. We're going to see these boats again, the AC-75s, and if they're cool and it works out and the racing gets closer. Remember, the racing wasn't very close in the 12s either. 1958, 4-0, Columbia by, 15 minutes. We'll see. Yeah, Bellamente 72. I think they're sailing Hapfouth's Bellamente, and I think there's sailing Doug DeVos's 52, what's now called the 52s. Julie Aarons she agrees with Mark Reed's comment here that I just showed you a moment ago. Where American Magic goes depends on the venue. I think Talbot Wilson, who is in Pensacola, and he knows, he's close to the team, and he's a very savvy character. We're going to have him on the show. I hope, Talbot, you're still willing to do that. Magic support crew are being called back to work, as one might hear. Yeah, Ken, I think you're right. Ineos' original plan was to have a permanent base in the UK, one in Auckland. The fact that it was ditched its base in Auckland is even more meaningful, as it currently doesn't have one in the UK, Gordon Smith is saying. Yeah, well, they're about to have one. Mark Huss said Mark Wharton Reed was making total sense in his comment. Yeah, I agree. Foiling is a trend, Julie Aaron saying, who knows what the future will bring? Indeed, we don't, which is why we have a bunch of smart people on here, and we'd love to get all your comments. I get criticized sometimes for going to the comments so often, and when Julia is here, we can look at the comments, but it makes the Fozy. You all make the show. It's about you. It's about, all of us educating each other, and we're deeply appreciative for your support. Which brings us to the D block, the final segment here. My favorite segment. And I've only gotten two funnies. Only have two funnies for you today. One related to the Winter Olympics. Joyce, if you're still on, thank you for sending this along via Julia. Joyce Shirella. Olympic officials admit concern over the North Korean bobsleigh. That's got to be an old joke, isn't it? But, they're threatening to fire stuff off, have been firing stuff off. Thanks, Joyce Shirella, who is a former San Franciscan. She still hangs out here a little bit. Member at St. Francis in Richmond, and presumably a club in Hawaii as well. Finally, would dedicate this to Andrew McIrvin, I should say. Oh, I assure you, one way or the other, one day you will be cured. I wouldn't dedicate that to Her Majesty the Queen or to Crown Prince Charles, but one way or another you will be cured. That's to Fozy. That's from, thanks to Fozy Bill Cook in Annapolis Yacht Club, and a longtime friend as well. If people read the whole SW piece and work through the sailing rule, this is Richard Gladwell's comment, and work through the timelines and rules mentioned, it's clear as to why AM wanted to stay in Auckland and the real advantages they would gain. Indeed, Richard, good point, and do go back and read Richard's full article as always. LOL, the pig will be cured. That's bad. Yeah, okay, it was a bad, but Russian Black Sea cruise missiles, no, I think those are North Korean Black Sea cruise missiles. Talbot Wilson replying to Stingray, where do you live? He lives in Seattle, but he gets around. He's now retired from Boeing. He's got a lot of time. He's a coder. He's a code jockey. Smart boy that he is. The finish line. And we have not just comments here. We've got a couple of we're looking forward to here in this weekend. First of all, on Sunday, which will be Saturday night here, the finals of the 2021-22 Australian 18-footer championship. We've been covering these guys. They did their New South Wales championship. We had some nice videos and reports on that. But they've had some racing last weekend, and after a weekend of 5 action-packed races, former Australian championship winning skipper, is it Sevi? Jarvin will be attempting to win his 7th title when he competes for the coveted trophy against a fleet of 23 boats from New South Wales and Queensland on Sydney Harbour this Sunday. They've got 2 races, I think, scheduled this Sunday. There is the leader. That is on his boat, Andu. We've been telling you about Jarvin, and Matt Senta and Sam Newton have taken the lead in Andu in the 2021-22 championship regatta, but will have to be at their very best on Sunday to hold off strong challenges from a top-class fleet. I think there's 21 boats, aren't there? Including the defending champion Tech 2 team, led by Jack McCartney, and the current JJ World Champion Smeg team, led by Michael Coxon. JJ Glittinen. There's the Tech 2 team. And what a fabulous sight. They're going to have a northeaster from the weather reports I'm hearing. It's Saturday down there now. Chime in and tell us what's going on, you Aussies. Bloody Aussies. McCartney will be attempting to make a 3 in a row, make it a three-peat, and become only the 5th skipper to win 3 or more consecutive Australian championships over the 99 contests held so far. This is the 100th year, remember. The others include Vic Vaughan, Len Heffernan, and our old friend and Fozy Ian Murray, and the present series leader, Sevi Jarvin, who has done it twice. Bravo Zulu to Frank Quealy. I think I spelled his name wrong. I might have had an extra vowel in there, from Australia, who was writing for sail-world.com, the Australian edition. And we just conclude with a photo from one of the, I don't think that's 100 years ago, but it's one of the early 18-footer championships with the spectator boat and the gambling that goes on. And what a scene. If any of you have ever seen that, I commend it to you. They are covering the race of Sunday live. Go to 18footer.com, I think is the website. I didn't put the little thing in here. And if you're down there, the COVID restrictions are still in play to a degree. So you've got to, if you want to get on a spectator boat, you got to book early. Book today. It's Saturday down there. Great stuff. Bravo Zulu. That is coming up on their Sunday, our Saturday night. Also on our Sunday, as you've all mentioned, several of you mentioned, Super Bowl 56 LVI, if my great grammar school Roman numerals are correct. 56. The Los Angeles Rams versus the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll be watching it, I'm sure, 18footertv.com. Thanks, Steve Gruber. The Aussie 18-footers are over the top cool. Yeah, now, you know, they're not foilers. They're not foilers. So why are you all so down on... They're over the top cool, just like the AC-70, the ACC boats were. Yeah, the foilers are cool. I'd like to see Andu win it. John Winning is a legend, Mark Husted says. Yep, indeed. Thanks, Steve Gruber, again, for that link to the live TV. 2 races Sunday. I think it starts at, what, noon? Sev, race for Andrew Pindar. Okay. Super Bowl. I don't know who's going to win. I frankly don't care who's going to win. The Bengals beat the 49ers, our local San Francisco team, and we'll probably cheer for the Bengals because it's a Midwestern team and because a lot of you are from Ohio and because they beat our beloved 49ers, so we can at least say, well, you know, we lost to the team that won. And because everybody in San Francisco hates LA and vice versa. Okay, that's this Sunday. Monday, as you probably all know, is Valentine's Day. Here are a couple of classic Valentine's cards from way back. Happy Valentine's Day on Monday. A couple of sailing-related Valentine's classic cards, including a ice boating. The wind is fresh. The ice is strong. Be my Valentine and come along. Ice boating. Who would have thought back in the day? Here's another one. You float. Okay, this is kind of cliche. You float my boat. Happy Valentine's Day. And finally, this one. This Valentine's Day, why not use those 3 little words guaranteed to drive him or her wild with excitement? Let's go sailing. Not I love you, not Happy Valentine's Day. Let's go sailing. That's thanks to globalyachts.racing.com. I'd not heard of it. It's a website in the UK that does crew, I don't know, putting people together for crewing on boats and so on. Speaking of ice sailing, or ice boating as we call it here, on Tuesday, as promised, we will have a special show all about ice boating. Our Fozy Blake Middleton will be on from Minneapolis, the Minneapolis area, Wayzata Yacht Club area, along with this lady who is super cool. I haven't met her. We've texted a little bit back and forth. This is Erin Burry, B-U-R-Y, Erin Burry, I think she says, who's an ice boating veteran and leader of the pack. She and Blake will be on together via Skype, and we're going to do a show focusing in on ice boating, which if you haven't done it, I grew up on a lake with an ice boat, an arrow, and a DN out front. And when the ice was clear, which doesn't often happen, but, you know, a couple, 3 times a winter, you'd have in fact, I'd skip school to go ice boating. If the ice was good and there was going to be breeze, and especially if it was nice and sunny, but even if it wasn't, you'd skip school and go ice boating all day up and down the lake. And it was fabulous. Just great stuff. And you talk about apparent wind sailing, ice boating defines. I mean, it's the fastest. You're going 100 miles an hour on some of these things because there's so little friction. Cool stuff. We'll talk about that with Blake and Aaron next Tuesday. Ice boats, yes, Ken Saban is saying. Replying, yeah, Fridays are fun. Sailing, wine, heavy lift, transport now, historic Valentine's cards. Who said you couldn't do it all? Talbot Wilson, they're back and forth about, okay, well, you guys talk about terrorism and that sort of stuff. Okay, they're talking about the Super Bowl and so on. I would normally at this point come to Julia and say, Julia, you're witness. And she sitting over in her chair would say, please like, follow, or share. Comments welcome too, even in replay is what I would say. And we'd ask you to support us via Patreon. That's how we keep this show on the road, keep the lights on and the internet paid for. A couple of the other things we have to buy. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated as we close in on our 500th show, which we think will be March 1st. We'll see. Again, sometimes we add a show, sometimes we subtract a show because of whatever. But we hope you'll join us for March 1st. Nothing special. It's just another show, but we're going to have some fun with that. Thanks to all those who supplied us with video, with images, with audio, and comments. Hope to see you all on Tuesday. Have a great weekend wherever you are in the world. In the meantime, we hope you also can sail fast, sail safe, and have fun.